o'clock Tuesday news and politics show. 3 o'clock was Ava Gaudet with arts and entertainment. Just before I go to Jennifer Lawless down at American, wanted to give folks an update. There are a lot of updates on GoLocalProv.com right now pertaining to tomorrow's expected snowstorm. Providence schools canceled, General Assembly canceled, a latest update from GoLocal meteorologist John Giorgi. So be sure after the show to go to GoLocalProv.com. But while we have you here in studio, we've got Jennifer Lawless at American, and there is a lot going on right now down in DC. Jennifer, thanks for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
So talk with us a little bit about where things are at with Mueller and Trump and looking into Trump's business dealings in Russia. This seems to be sort of the biggest developments we've seen from Mueller to date as it pertains specifically to Donald Trump and his business holdings. What's the talk down there?
Right. So, the main issue here is twofold. The first aspect of it is whether Mueller is now focusing on obstruction rather than collusion. Okay. And by looking at Trump's business dealings, what he's really trying to gain a handle on, we think, is the extent to which Trump had relationships with Russians where, in suggesting to Michael Flynn or Jeff Sessions or anybody else that maybe they shouldn't be as forthcoming as they might be inclined to be with the general counsel, that there's something to hide. The second aspect of this has to do with the fact that Trump and his team have clearly modified their plans. It wasn't until the weekend that Trump called out Mueller by name and suggested that he's engaged in a witch hunt. It's no longer that the investigation overall is a witch hunt. So Trump and his lawyers are now beginning, I think, to realize that we've reached a point in time where they're no longer willing to keep quiet, and they're no longer willing to suggest that, they'll just play by the rules until the investigation comes to an end. And I'm sure that that was inspired by the fact that Mueller is poking around in Trump's financial dealings.
And let's talk a little bit both about what the purported or potential, as you said, obstruction of justice, not collusion. Anything that comes down from Mueller, grounds for, what would we see if we saw, even if it went to that level, if we saw an obstruction of justice charge?
Well, obstruction of justice is actually easier in terms of grounds for impeachment than collusion, because it's unclear exactly whether collusion is illegal. It's unclear if it's a high crime or misdemeanor. These are tricky things. Obstruction of justice is something that we have experience with. It was part of the articles of impeachment against Bill Clinton. So as far as Democrats in the House or Democrats more broadly who want to see an end to the presidency, the notion that Mueller is focusing on obstruction as opposed to possibly collusion should probably be good news. The downside is that as president of the United States, Donald Trump has some discretion over exactly what he talks to the special counsel about. And it's going to be difficult to sort of nail him down on a lot of these issues. Collusion, if he could get other people ahead of time to say, look, yeah, he called me and he said that, we basically need to figure out a way to keep Hillary Clinton from being president, doesn't really rely on Donald Trump's testimony as much as an obstruction case would.
And of course, Mueller front and center with all the talk down in DC. Any talk again, does Mueller survive? We've discussed this multiple times. If Trump feels that he's under such scrutiny and such pressure, if he does, put the pressure onto Mueller, could that even be a possibility?
Well, Lindsey Graham over the weekend said that if Trump fires Mueller, that will be the beginning of the end of the presidency. And it's not only Lindsey Graham. Susan Collins, other Republican senators came out over the weekend and said pretty much the same thing. Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan have been relatively quiet about this, but the general sense among Republicans on Capitol Hill is that Donald Trump would not be stupid enough to do this. I think that we should caution that optimism, not because Trump is stupid, but because Donald Trump plays to his base. And his base thinks that this is a witch hunt, in large part because he's told them that it's a witch hunt. And Donald Trump also thinks that he is immune to the kinds of punishments and prosecutions that other presidents have had to deal with. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he at least considers ending this investigation. It's tricky, though, because the first thing he would have to do there also is figure out who would replace Jeff Sessions and who could get confirmation under those circumstances.
Keeping an eye on the Mueller investigation, but a lot going on with the personal relationships of the Trumps. Never mind Stormy Daniels. Now we've seen this week with Trump Jr., his divorce, Aubrey O'Day. Here we have another sort of interpersonal dynamic interjected into politics. Is this just add to the distraction of what's taking place in D.C. right now?
Oh, I don't think it adds to the distraction. If anything, I think it's cueing a lot of political junkies to think about Monica Lewinsky and Paula Jones. You know, the special counsel into Bill Clinton was tasked with trying to figure out if something illegal was done regarding Whitewater and other financial and real estate deals. And it was throughout the course of that investigation that Bill Clinton was deposed and ultimately lied about sexual relations with Monica Lewinsky in the Paula Jones sexual harassment suit. So the more and more that we see with Stormy Daniels or other women coming forward, either about shady non-disclosure agreements or affairs that Donald Trump is denying, I think the more and more we're beginning to see potential parallels to the kinds of things that ultimately took Bill Clinton down. We know that Donald Trump has a problem with the truth, and the worst thing for him would be a deposition or an actual testimony. And that doesn't necessarily mean to Robert Mueller. It could even be in a case regarding a woman who feels that he treated her poorly.
And we just saw the news today, a judge tossed out opposition from Trump to try to deny a lawsuit in New York. This is the latest that this potential legal proceeding is moving forward.
That's right. So there was a 2007 Apprentice contestant who said that Trump grabbed her in a way that he shouldn't have grabbed her. The judge not only refused to throw out the suit, but the judge also said that it was not going to be tabled until the presidency was finished. So this is something that Donald Trump is going to have to deal with in real time. And the more and more flustered and frustrated he gets about that, the more likely he is to behave in a way that might not be in his best interest when it comes to Stormy Daniels or even Bob Mueller's investigation.
Well, we're going to continue to keep an eye on Mueller, keep an eye on Stormy Daniels, things taking place in D.C., but just mention New York, and one of the things I want to discuss with you, Cynthia Nixon tossing her hat in the political ring. Does she have a chance?
No. I mean, look, I think it's great that people are energized to run for office. I think it's especially great when we see women who are running progressive candidacies. But Andrew Cuomo has been a pretty progressive ally for most groups that are interested in putting forward, a more liberal agenda in New York. And I think an example of that is Congressman Maloney from upstate New York, who's in the New York delegation, the only open gay member of the delegation, said that, Andrew Cuomo is the best that they could ever expect or want or have the privilege of serving with, And so when you've got really, really progressive members of the political establishment encouraging her not to run in the first place, it makes it difficult to see how this translates into anything more than a celebrity kind of campaign. Now, I could be wrong, but of all of the Democratic politicians that are out there, I really don't see Andrew Cuomo as particularly vulnerable in a primary.
Cuomo not vulnerable in New York. You did just have comments about this is the Illinois 3rd Congressional Democratic primary. Speaking of progressive versus not quite progressive, and Vox.com, you might have called someone insane?
I might have called somebody insane. The Republican, though, not the Democrat.
Yes.
The Democrat's just a crummy Democrat. So in this Illinois congressional district, Dan Lipinski is the Democratic incumbent, and he's facing a pretty strong primary challenge from a woman. The election is tonight. And the reason that she has a very good chance of winning this district is not only that it's a far more Democratic district than Lipinski's voting record would suggest, but also because the likely Republican nominee is a Holocaust denier. And so this is one of those rare opportunities where the Democrats can knock out a moderate or socially conservative Democrat, replace that person with somebody who is a real Democrat with true democratic values, a progressive agenda, and not undergo any kind of political risk for the general election, because there's no way that this Republican candidate could take back the seat. And so I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the few incumbents defeated. And this is not a situation like Conor Lamb in Philadelphia or outside of Philadelphia last week. This is a situation where you've got a pretty solidly blue district. So the fact that Lipinski is out of sync on a woman's right to choose, as well as a wide variety of other issues, suggests that that district could probably get better representation with very little political risk.
And you mentioned it being a blue district, and you mentioned the Republican challenger being a Holocaust denier. Is this just a gift to the Democrats?
It's a gift to the Democrats if they decide to seize it, right? So this is one of these opportunities where there was no chance whatsoever, if Lipinski was the nominee, that the Republican would win the race, right? But most people don't take on incumbents because I can tell you from personal experience, it's hard and there's an incumbency advantage and these things are real.
Yes.
But this is one of those opportunities where the Democrats can actually move the needle in a far more progressive direction with no risk, as long as voters are willing to, throw out an incumbent. And that's just rare, but I think this is one of those few districts where it's likely.
Well, we'll see the results of the Democratic primary in Illinois. One of the last things I wanted to talk with you while we have you here in studio, Jennifer, is what's going on with Facebook, Cambridge Analytica, and not just looking at Facebook from the data mining perspective unto itself, but its implications in the political sphere.
I've got to tell you, when I logged onto Facebook this morning, I can't even count the number of people that said they were leaving Facebook.
Wow.
I think the idea that this is a place, first of all, where people post their innermost thoughts, their favorite photos. I mean, it's basically an archive of people's lives, right? It's a social media diary. The fact that that has been compromised in a way where it can affect elections past, elections present, and elections future is disconcerting. But beyond that, Facebook's response has really not, I think, met the, sort of met people's expectations. And so I think as far as campaigns and elections are concerned moving forward, there are going to be opportunities to mine social media outlets like Facebook to target voters or to plant fake news or to do whatever else. But I also think that these campaigns and elections have to realize that individual users might be far more inclined to just leave these platforms altogether because they're the adults in the room now, right? It's the potential voters who are saying, wait a minute, I'm not giving up everything so that people can figure out, my day in and day out routine. And the fact that Facebook is not coming up with a broad, far-reaching policy to make subscribers feel better about this in the very short run is probably detrimental.
Is this a really watershed moment for Facebook and the future of Facebook? There's been discussions in past years. It's become such a monolith, such a monopoly. And now, as you said, logging on and seeing people, I saw posts today too, people saying, hey, I'm taking a break. I have to say, I've got friends across the political spectrum, definitely saw more on the left saying such, I think perhaps as a result of the election outcome. Do we see a different sort of Facebook? Do we see a different platform? Does this change politics?
I don't know. I mean, I think if everything stayed exactly the same, then I think it has the potential to change politics in that Facebook data can be mined and the people who remain on Facebook are going to be more likely to then be the people that are targeted in these kinds of elections. But I also think that Mark Zuckerberg and everybody else at Facebook have bottom line concerns. And I'm not sure that they're going to be willing to just say, okay, whoops, like we gave it was a good decade. We gave it a shot, right? So my bet is that they're going to now start taking very seriously ways to modify the platform or issue more protections or ensure that there's less hacking or data mining. But what we saw with Cambridge Analytica is, it's unclear exactly what they did that was wrong. It was they accessed information that was available and then they used it in a way that could affect election outcomes. But I mean, there wasn't anything necessarily nefarious or illegal about what they did.
So much going on inside the Beltway. I know you're expecting some snow down there, as are we. Again, letting folks know lots of updates on GoLocal. But besides keeping an eye in the skies, what else are you watching down in D.C.?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. There's likely going to be another firing this week. It's unclear who. I mean, maybe it'll be John Kelly, maybe it'll be Veterans Department. But what we have seen pretty consistently is the Friday afternoon firing as a way to at least take a little bit of the heat off the other news that the administration doesn't want. Last week, it was Andrew McCabe. And so, my sense is that we'll be well served to continue to look at who else is going to be shifting around. And Donald Trump, quite frankly, has basically foreshadowed that this is going to be taking place. He said that there's going to be a reshuffling not only in the cabinet, but even among his legal team. And he reached out to Ted Olson today to see if he would join that legal team. That would be a very, very big name. Apparently, he's considering it, and he's speaking with his law firm about any potential conflicts of interest.
Well, lots to keep an eye on down there. And as always, we appreciate your taking the time to Skype in up here to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. Jennifer Lawless, thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
Okay, we'll talk soon. Jennifer Lawless down at American University. Mueller, Trump, Facebook, Stormy Daniels, Trump Jr., everything that is being talked about. We get the Inside the Beltway scoop from Jennifer down in D.C. Appreciate your time as always. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with our next guest hitting on an issue a little closer to home here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center.